Settle down, children, settle down. I thought you might say that, so I've brought a little surprise for you. Try not to get too excited. I know. Sometimes I impress even myself. Slow down there. Let's think about this for a moment. What would happen to your beloved mortal followers if I was to kill death itself, I wonder?
The Glacor race, consisting of the smaller glacites, the Glacor, Arch Glacor, and Glacor, are beings whose true form lies within their core. They can manipulate ice to create a physical body, and they are able to travel through space in the form of comets, and survive orbital re-entry. Glacors can freeze any environment they inhabit purely from just existing, and they can attack with all three styles. If running low on health, they can summon glacites to assist them, although the nature between the two's relation is unknown. The glacites themselves also have unique properties, with the unstable glacite exploding by nearby enemies before regenerating themselves and restarting the process if not properly disposed of. The sapping glacites will drain an enemy's prayer, and the enduring glacite will reduce the damage taken to their host. Arch Glacor, on the other hand, are far stronger and larger than their brethren, standing anywhere from 10 to 100 times bigger, and are capable of returning stronger after defeat, if not thoroughly vanquished. With the Arch Glacor being of a more pure ice, they can use their innate powers to launch powerful blasts and beams at their opponents. Arch Glacors cannot be controlled or subdued by that of a lesser god. For once, Zamorak tried to acquire one for his armies, only to find it completely impervious to demonic pacts and bindings. Lastly, the Glacor, which is a complete enigma, is only known to be the largest and most powerful of the race, even towering over the Arch Glacor. We do not know where the Glacor originated, but aeons ago, for unknown reasons, they invaded the planet of Leng, crashing down upon its surface and creating bodies out of the ice they brought with them, and soon wiping out the planet's civilization and covering everything in a frozen tundra. In a passage from the Glacor front within Senntisten, this is further explained. It reads,
Leng was one of the first planets created by the Elder Gods. It was no paradise, but it birthed an industrious civilization whose name is now long forgotten. When the icy comets appeared in the sky, the people of Leng had no idea what awaited them. The crashing comets wrought devastation as they landed, but something worse rose out of the craters. The incorporeal invaders formed towering suits of armor from the ice they brought with them. That same ice spread across the whole world, covering the cities and freezing their people. Their work done, the Glacor stood vigil over a silent, dead world for countless of eons.
Sometime prior to the Third Age in Gielinor, during Zaros' expedition across the universe in search of a cure for the Ilionka's fertility, he ended up on the planet Leng, the first person to interact with the Glacor race. And what did Zaros do? Well, obviously, he does what he does best. He kills an Arch Glacor, transforming its core into an ice crystal used to power Neck's Angel of Death, alongside 3 others infused with the ancient elements of smoke, blood, and shadow, used in creating the Nihil race. At some point in the late 5th Age, the Majora Lucian, a powerful necromancer, was able to summon several hundred Glacor to reinforce him during the 18th Ritual of Rejuvenation, although how he managed this feat is unknown. However, only one Glacor made it onto the battlefield, as the renowned Kuradil battled the massive pack into a cave. He would eventually manage to escape the onslaught, and with Lucian's death, the Glacor had no one to answer to, making the cave their permanent prison. With all of that being said, it sets the stage for one other, who really experienced the destruction of the Glacor firsthand, a Fremnik man by the name of Fel Arneson. This is his story. Fel took it upon himself to brave the harsh north, a wicked, unforgiving environment, in search of gold and to reclaim his family's name after losing his beloved daughter. Instead, the outcome was much, much different. In the Journal of Fel Arneson, it reads,
"Hi, Izza. I am sorry. I went in search of the mystic cave in the utter north that leads to the Whitelands. In that place, I found adventure and riches, and redeemed our family's name. I found the thin place in the deepest part of the cave, but what lay on the other side was not the land of snow. There was snow for sure, but not the wholesome forest and gentle drifts of legend. What greeted me instead was the bleak and jagged landscape of the dark stone mountains. All around the biting wind howled, and in the distant blizzards raged, each large enough to swallow Relica and all the other lands around. I wept then, for the way behind was closed, and I could see no sign of food or shelter anywhere in that place."
Now trapped on Leng, Fel had no choice but to make do of his new reality. With little to no supplies, he set out on this treacherous terrain to see what he could recover for himself. Days passed by, even weeks with no luck, although something did catch his eyes, trapped in limbo beneath the surface, that sparked his will to carry on. The text continues,
I had no choice but to explore, to seek any sign of shelter or sustenance in this forsaken place. I set out, and saw soon that the land all about was a sheet of ice, which was filled in the space between the mountains. This was no slow-moving glacier, but an internal, frozen plain miles deep. In places the snow was blasted away by the wind, and I could see the murky ice reach down into the depths below where the roots of the mountain lay. I found myself following a road of sorts, carved into the icy plains. A groove was cut 2 or 3 feet deep in the ice, a trench which ran in a perfectly straight line for as far as I could see in either direction. I could see no sign of who or what had made it, but I followed it in the hope of finding its maker. As I wandered, I saw shapes through the ice, on the bottom far below. They were too regular or too incredible to be natural. They were buildings, great cities even, buried in the frozen, sunken slumber. What I could make out of their architecture seemed impossible, and when I tried to sleep in this place, the strange, distorted shapes of those buildings haunt me. I wondered who could have built them, and whether they ever stood above the surface of the ice. Had they been ruined and buried, or were they somehow built within the ice itself?
a city frozen in time, encapsulated by the pristine walls of impenetrable, icy brick. Fel, incredibly intrigued, splashed by a dash of hope that there may be more than meets the eye around there in terms of food and shelter, was still overcome with despair, knowing his future fate if his situation did not change. That is, until he saw a mysterious figure. Was this the break he so desperately needed? The journal reads,
My hope was almost gone then, but finally, through the snow ahead of me, I beheld a man on the road. I rushed to him, for where there was travelers, surely there was civilization, food, and a bed. I found a cloaked figure, his face impossible to make out, walking slowly and determinedly down the center of the road, never breaking stride. I bade him greetings in a shivering voice, but he gave no sign of notice. and did not slow down. Cold and fearful and angered by his lack of response, I demanded that he stop. He ignored me as though I did not exist and trod on. I rushed ahead of him such that he would have to greet me or go around. Instead, he simply walked into me without acknowledgement, and although I put my arms out to stop him and pushed with all my might, I could do nothing to halt or even slow him. I saw then that nothing could stop his travel, and I realized the impossible truth. He was not walking along the road, he was making it. The slow tread of his unwavering footsteps had carved an exact line, around and around this world for ages I could not even fathom.
Fel, now truly distraught over the circumstances, reluctantly trudged on. But what he encountered next really put his life in perspective. The time had come at last. His final entries read,
I fled from the unnatural road towards the mountains, but there I found something even more awful. Every Fremennik knows the legend of the Glacors, those savage beings of ice brought forth by unholy sorcerers. What appeared on the horizon was a Glacor of truly titanic size. I know now where I am. This is not the Whitelands. This is the icy hell, which some call Leng. As I write this account, I can see the massive Glacor moving in the distance. It looms as tall as a mountain. Storms cling to its sides, and a wicked and unholy light shines from within its core. I can see no hope, no survival in this place, but I can still find honor in battle and death. To be the first to slay such a beast, is it even possible? If this account lies unfinished, you know that I failed.
During the 6th Age of Gielinor, more Glacors were transported there by the Elder God Wen, who sought to reclaim her egg at any cost after having it stolen by the mortal races. Wen did not directly interact though with the Glacors from Leng, as during this period, for unknown reasons, shadow anima had suffused both the planet and its denizens. Seeing this, Wen instead conjured portals, unwilling to approach them directly, thus them arriving in Senntisten. We see further evidence of this in another passage from the Glacor front. It reads,
When the Elder God Wen needed powerful servants, she found them waiting in this inhospitable place. Anathema suffused the planet and its denizens. Could she really unleash them against Gielinor, the hatchery for her precious egg? Unwilling to approach such tainted beings, she opened portals for them and turned her face from the destruction to come.
On a side note, Slisky wrote a play called The Whispering King, seeming to describe aspects of Leng with themes such as glacial plains, secrets buried beneath the ice, and wandering philosophers who walk the world in silence, contemplating what it means to be truly forgotten. He also made jokes about being hollowed out and fed to ancient jaws that would grind us to dust and make us glad for it. Now, we see a bit of these observations in Fel's journal, but it is surmised to say that Slisky is referring to the entity known as Voss, or Vos, a mysterious being related to the Shadow Realm, the mysterious monolith, and or Erebus, and possibly linking it to Leng, and therefore possibly being the one to corrupt the Glacor. Back on the Glacor front, during the quest Extinction, as time passed, the Glacors were steadily pushing back the Elven defenders, while the Arch Glacor was still being held by the mages. Eventually, Inokra retreated, forcing Azanadra to send the rest away for their own safety. The Arch Glacor came down from the aqueduct and into the staging arena, leaving behind 4 generating Glacors. The glacites produced by the Glacors nearly overwhelmed Azenadra, but the timely arrival of the World Guardian allowed him to regain control of the situation. Azenadra eventually returned the Arch Glacor back to Leng. It is not known what happened to the Glacors and the glacites, but it could be assumed that they too also returned to their home plane. And that concludes the lore of the Glacors. I really hope that you did enjoy. I want to thank Chivalric, Logan Satomi, and NuzzNuzz for their contributions to the video, and I will provide links to their channels in the description. Watch out for our next video on the Arid. Take care. RuneScape forever.